sketchbooks. I also have this big box here from IKEA that stores all of my watercolor color pencil originals. And here are some of my mixed media sketch pads. I usually do my oil pastel, soft pastel in these mixed media sketchbooks. And I also have a moleskin sketchbook for when I was really into doing just like line art, and it's really good for sketching with pen. Here I have some small sketchbooks as well. I usually bring these when I travel. These are mostly for when I see a really pretty architecture that I want to capture. I would do a small sketching here, or I would do like a little comic of myself in here when I'm stuck in the airplane. So I recommend having these for when you're traveling. So I actually don't have a lot of sketchbooks here compared to some really prolific artists. I don't normally sketch for fun. I sketch when I need to plan out my ideas or to brainstorm a whole bunch of thumbnails and to explore all the options I have to achieve that final image in my mind. So today I'll be showing these sketchbooks in chronological order. Just to show you guys my past 5-6 years of becoming the artist I am today, and hopefully I'll be able to explain how I developed my drawing method, how I used to make notes on my sketches indicating color and light and shadow, and how that just becomes part of my process now. From the very start, I've always been interested in trying to capture what I find beautiful around me, whether it's something really classic like sunset at the beach or nighttime of the bridge, or just a little tree in the park. I did a lot of drawing on the spot in the beginning. When I see a setting that I really want to draw, but I don't have enough time to fully paint it and render it on the spot, I would do a really detailed sketch of it. And I would actually use a really dumb way of labeling color and lightness. So L represents light, LL means extra light, dark means dark, DD means extra dark. So that was my very Angela Pan way of, labeling lightness. And then I would also label which part of the light source is warm and which part appeared cooler. That was all to help me remember everything without photo reference. After realizing that my passion in drawing is really for environments and architectural drawings, I realized I had a major weak point in perspective. I always knew the very basic perspective, but I never really practiced doing buildings in perspective. So to kind of conquer this weakness, I started doing these everyday pen drawings of Vancouver and some from Toronto. So when I was in Tokyo for 3 months in the beginning of 2017, I set a goal for myself to complete a booklet of drawings inspired by Tokyo. And a booklet would normally be 16 pages or 20 pages of drawing. And for me at the time, even 16 pages seemed like a lot. And the reason why back then it took me so long to produce one drawing was because I only ever relied on my memory. I didn't allow myself to take any photo reference. I thought it would be cheating. So what I would do is I would go back to the same spot to observe, say for example, the train platform. Or I would go back to the same spot observing how the moon is positioned against the building and how much moonlight is affecting the building. Even though I do pride myself on how good my memory is, it's so hard to retain that much information. Every time I would try to gather all these information in my mind, take notes in my notebook, and then rush home and just force myself to finish that drawing within the next 24 hours. Because I realized after 24 hours, my memory does tend to fade away. But the difference between this stage of my drawing compared to my previous drawings of Vancouver cafes is that I started doing little thumbnails. I started memorizing composition in a more simplified way. I started doing these Posca travel drawings. And the major difference between this series of drawings compared to all of my previous eras is that I was finally able to put down my pride and started taking photo reference. But I don't copy photos. I think that's the major distinction I want to make here. Copying photo meaning you're basically copying the color and the composition stroke by stroke. But when I try to create, I would try to simplify the composition based on quite a few photo references that would represent what I saw in real life. So photography and these pictures are merely a tool, an extension of my brain, an extra SD card that I'm using to fill in all the gaps in my memory. So when I'm traveling, I don't take photos of just anything. It's only when I see something that I know I want to draw, I would take quite a few photos from different angles and try to zoom in and capture the different detail that I know I want to portray. And then before I start the actual painting, to avoid relying just on the composition of the photo I've taken, I would do little thumbnail drawings of the composition that I want and work out the composition in a small scale first. I would then base my final painting's composition on my little thumbnail, but I would fill in all the details according to the photo reference. For example, I can't really remember what exactly the roof tiles look like. I would look at my photo and that would give me a really clear idea. So now with my newly evolved system, what I'm doing is pretty much exactly the same as what I was doing, say, 2 years ago. Instead of going back to the same spot and trying to memorize more detail, relying on my brain, I'm just taking photos so that my brain doesn't have to be burdened when I'm traveling. I think that's pretty much it for today. Hopefully by showing you guys my sketchbooks and explaining my process, it can help you understand how someone can develop their drawing style and drawing method, because that's something that a lot of people have asked me in the past. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and thank you for watching this video.